Hi guys, today I'm going to review the Samsung Galaxy A5. It is one of Samsung's early attempts to build a premium mid-range phone, and I have to say, the first moment I laid my hands on it, I was extremely surprised by it. I was impressed, but was I impressed with all the rest of this phone? We will see about that in my full review. So let's damn it. Okay, here we have it. Let's talk about the design and the build quality. And the first thing I want to make quickly sure of, let's make a comparison with a 5.2 inch. As you can see, it is quite a bit shorter and it's also a little bit more narrow, as you can see here. And this makes it feel very nice in the hand because you can reach practically every point quite easily, and then overall it just looks nice. But let's get around the ports and buttons first. Here we have the SIM card tray, SD card slot, here's the power button. That feels a little bit mushy. I would wish for it to be a little bit more with a haptic feedback, a bit more click, but it works fine, so that's not the problem. At the top here we have the microphone. On the left hand side we have the volume rocker that does have a nice clicky feel and is really great. And on the bottom we have another microphone, micro USB and the headphone jack, which is quite nice because this is one position I really like. Otherwise, in terms for the power button, I think it sounds a little bit shallow and a little bit cheap, but it works also really nice. As for the rest, here we have the camera, the speaker and the LED. In overall, I have to say this device feels really substantial. As you can see here, we have metal all around and this feels so premium. It doesn't attract any fingerprints. It feels just well like a premium laptop from Samsung. Really great choice. It is at sometimes maybe a little bit slippery, but it definitely feels nice because it is so compact. It is really nice to hold on. And besides the buttons, I have to complain a little bit about this sharp edge, because we have this nice beveled edge here and it looks great, but believe me, it won't look that great for a long period of time because I had it on the Note 4. It will chip off quite easily and it won't look just as nice anymore. And I also think it feels a little bit sharp because every time I pull it out of my pocket, I notice this hard edge. And since I do also a lot of gestures on the edges here, I noticed this to be a bit rough. It's just a bit of a sharp edge that I would have preferred to be more rounded, but otherwise the whole design is made well. It looks extremely premium. It feels extremely premium. I have to say this is one of the most impressive feeling devices in my hands I ever felt so far, and I definitely can't really say anything that bad. In overall, they did a great job here. Let's get to the display. We have a 5-inch 720p AMOLED display. The sharpness, in my opinion, is quite nice. It is good enough. It is no 1080p, but it does a fine job because the overall otherwise qualities are very good. If you check the white, maybe it doesn't come over the camera. It looks a bit reddish here, but it is slightly more on the yellow side. But if you don't have a neutral device all the time by your side as a comparison, you won't notice it, and I was quite fine with it. As for the blacks, we have AMOLED, so nothing to really complain. The black is perfect, and you can also see the colors are quite punchy, quite nice, as we know them from AMOLED, very vibrant, very vivid, and I can't really say they are too far off in terms of neutrality. They are quite accurate. I wouldn't really complain about that. And you still have the few different settings. You have adaptive display that will adjust a few settings. You also have AMOLED cinema, which gives it even more punch, and I quite like this one. You also have AMOLED photo, which you see the display gets a little bit warmer, and then you have also basic. I found AMOLED photo and basic just to be a little bit too yellow, and that's why I would stay with AMOLED cinema or even adaptive display. I like this display. It is maybe not the truest to life because it just does add a little bit of punch, but I definitely like it because it pops and it is quite sharp, and the black is amazing, so the contrast ratio and everything else, videos just look great, and I don't have anything to complain here. The display for a 720p is just a really brilliant one. Okay, let's get to the sound. Here is the microphone. I will hold it to a normal position, so let's start with the demo. Okay, so what about the sound? The first thing that has to be mentioned is the position. I'm not the happiest with the position because usually it's at least at the bottom and then you have some kind of reflection. Now you have to look elsewhere how you can get it to reflect, because otherwise the sound is going away from you and it is just not the best experience. But otherwise, it is very loud and it is great because I never missed a notification and I could hear most of the things I listened to it on very well. The sound experience definitely isn't the greatest one because you don't have any bass. The mids are okay and the highs are also just okay. And I would say this device is better suited for notifications and ringtones than for a pleasant video experience, because you can watch a YouTube video here and there and you will get the content delivered, but it won't be the best experience. These are no boom sound speakers after all. But what I really like, notifications and ringtones are loud, and I never missed one of them louder than usually. And the other good thing I have to mention here is the vibration. The vibration is a little bit longer than on any other device, and it is quite annoying, but therefore it makes sure you won't miss anything once it's in your pocket. So I'm okay with the speaker. It gets the job done good, more for notification and ringtones than for any content for videos or music, but still okay. So time to check the performance, and I can already tell you TouchWiz is no performance suck. As you can see here, this is just a Snapdragon 410, so a mid-range device on KitKat, and I didn't expect for it to be that good, because on a TouchWiz device with a mid-range CPU, I expected mid-range performance, but as you can see here, everything is buttery smooth here in the browser. It does have a little bit occasional lag here and there, but that is to be expected. But as you can see here, it is not lollipop smooth. But for KitKat with a mid-range CPU, I'm pleasantly surprised. I'm extremely surprised actually. As you can see how well this works. It is also very responsive. As you can see, app jumping works really fast. No problems here at all. What isn't so good, as you can maybe see, the delay for the recent apps. It is a little bit longer, but still totally okay. Also, the app launch times itself are slightly slower. And with only 2 GB of RAM, things just won't stay in the RAM as long. But I'm totally fine. The performance in overall is great. I can't really complain at all. For a mid-ranger, it performs almost like a flagship. And once it has lollipop, it will just get better. And that is really nice to see, especially for TouchWiz and a mid-range device, to see such a high level of performance. I am pleasantly surprised. I'm impressed. Great job, Samsung. So the performance is way above average, but what about the battery? Because that's still a very important factor. First of all, the charging. 1 hour of charging gets you to about 70%, and after only 1 hour and 50 minutes, you are already full. Quite a good outcome. I can't complain at all. This is good. As for the battery life itself, in my initial impressions, I thought during my setup, this doesn't look so good. Only 23 milliamps hour of battery. Not the most impressive. It could be a bit tight, but actually I have to say I got very close to 5 hours of screen on time with about a whole day of use, so 20 hours and so on. I would expect everyone to get at least 4 hours of screen on time over a whole day, maybe with a bit more brightness, because I used mostly between 30 and 50%, which was more than fine enough for me. And I can see people getting even 5 hours and more. And this is very close to what I actually got on the Note 4. And this makes it actually a quite impressive battery life. Not Z3 level, not OnePlus level, but at least a very, very high level after all. Time to get to Samsung's Achilles heel, the software, but actually I think those times are over. I was actually totally fine with this. As we can see here, we are on 4.4.4, so not even lollipop. A few things could get even better once it has that, but I have to say I'm actually fine with it. I would maybe wish for this to be gone, but otherwise it's nice to have customizable quick settings. Also, the lock screen isn't really the most impressive one, because you can't do much more than set up your camera and you have those widgets, but it is doing a good job. As for the launcher, I'm not the biggest fan of the launcher because it gives you only 4.4x4 and here a dock. Can't really customize too much. It is a bit limited, but you can simply replace that with something like Nova. But otherwise, I don't really have to complain anything. It got way sleeker. It maybe doesn't look for a few people that nice, but actually I think, I don't know, stock Android has pretty much the same colors by now, so it doesn't look really any better either. So I'm okay. Of course, we have here this bloat amount of settings, but once you get used to, you know which color is what, you will find your things quite easily, and it's okay. It is still a little bit overwhelming, especially for someone who's new to Samsung devices. You will need to fiddle around to find the right stuff, but there is not as much as there was anymore. The good thing is we still have multi-window that works quite nice. You can also hold it on and then drag it in. This all works fine. The performance also isn't really bad with this, so I'm okay with dual window. It works nice. The software looks way slimmer. It feels way slimmer. It doesn't bog down anything. You have still the best features that worked. That were no gimmicks. and still all the fine stuff. You don't have a fingerprint reader or something like that, but you get pretty much all you would expect from a Samsung device to get without the real gimmicky stuff. So you have lock screen, you have multi-window, you have notification panel, you have still the motion gestures and so on. So in overall, I have to say I am totally fine with TouchWiz as it is right now. And if it's with the Samsung Galaxy S6 and maybe Lollipop, even slimmer, I'm even way more impressed. Of course, it is not something real stock-like, but at least it feels and behaves way more than stock, even as it maybe doesn't look so. Okay, for everyone who didn't watch the whole in-depth part, just a quick recap once again. Design and build quality, totally fine. It feels premium. It is nice and compact. It feels very solid and sturdy, substantial. All really great here. Display also. Okay, it's maybe just 720p, but therefore a really outstanding, nice 720p. Still sharp enough for everything. Colors are nice. Really punchy deep blacks, so I'm still very happy with the display. The resolution is fine. As for the sound, maybe not the best experience, but it does a good job. It works. You will get to hear your notifications, you will hear your ringtones. Not the best for media though, after all, so it is okay. As for the performance, for a TouchWiz device with a mid-range CPU running KitKat, this is performing well. It wasn't really that much slower than my Sony Xperia Z3. You notice the small little differences in terms of loading times, multitasking and smoothness. But the difference doesn't make up for double the price. You have to remember this is mid-range. It costs about 300 euros, dollars, or I don't know how much it costs for you. But this is a viable option. Maybe I can get a Samsung Galaxy S5 for almost the same price right now. But I would actually prefer this because it just feels way better. And this brings me also to the battery life. It was fine. I would expect to get close to 5 hours, so I would make it through my heaviest days right now because my usage got a bit back down. I toned down, and I would make it through one day really easily actually with this device. As for the software, I was never a big TouchWiz fan, and I bashed it a lot on my previous videos, but this is the point where I have to say this is all okay for me. It doesn't maybe look, and I would still prefer stock, but all I need from a device, and once I do a little bit of customization, get a different lock screen, get a different launcher, and don't see as much of the UI anymore, and only the settings, I am okay with it. Therefore I get a few nice little additions like dual window and so on. So actually TouchWiz is at a point where I actually kind of like it. Yep, and this brings me to my point. Would I recommend this device? I would definitely recommend it if you want a premium feeling mid-ranger. If you want something, of course, more premium, get the S6 or something like that. I don't know yet about the battery life, but this device, for what it is for a mid-ranger, is absolutely great. And one thing I didn't talk about yet, because I don't really talk about that much, is the camera. 13 megapixels, but they work nice. They do great pictures, not on a Note 4 level, not on a S5 level, but still on a very good level. And I didn't really think it was any worse than the OnePlus or the Z3. It was still respectable because Samsung knows to do its cameras very well. So in overall, this device does nothing really wrong. The speaker maybe is still the weakest part, and that's something that isn't that important. So in overall, I have to say, like I already said, I'm not just surprised, but I'm actually impressed with this device. Of course, I would wish for it to be a little bit rounder, so the feel in hand would even be better, because it feels a little bit rough sometimes because of this hard edge. But I talked to a lot of people, and they said if they would go for a Samsung, they would get this, even though it doesn't maybe perform the best, but just the feel in hand makes up for a lot, and the performance is so close to a flagship. And if you want to save money, why not? You can do this with this device easily. So yeah, maybe not my first choice because I want flagship, but if you want to save money and still have a premium feel, get this device. No problems here at all. Okay, this was my review of the Samsung Galaxy A5. If you liked it, please rate, comment, subscribe, and leave me anything else. And you can also always support me on Patreon if you want to, but that's it otherwise. Okay, until next time, bye. I'll be back.